Right, so welcome, Sallyanne. So by way of introduction, Sallyanne Flemons is the Family Arts Campaign Wonderful Ambassador for the North East region. And although Sallyanne's been leading the North East Family Arts Network since October 2019 as ambassador, since 2014, she's also been managing Family Explorers North East, which is a project that enables peer recommendation to help families discover new cultural experiences. And at this point in time, well over 11,000 families, I think I'm right in saying, are part of the project, which is backed by a partnership for cultural organisations. More widely, Sallyanne is a freelance cultural communications consultant with a specialism in connecting mainstream audiences with great life-changing culture. And so some of Sallyanne's past work includes writing the original communication strategy for South East Northumberland State. And that was one of the first Creative People and Places projects, which was working in areas with low levels of cultural engagement. So Sallyanne, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today about some of your learnings and insights from the Ambassador Programme to date. But before we go into the programme, it would just be great to hear a bit about what you were doing before you joined it.
Yeah, I mean, you've done quite a good job of introducing me there. So my background is really in communications. I've been a freelance communications consultant since 2000. And my kind of job satisfaction has always come from helping good organisations that are doing good things to improve people's lives and to actually reach wider audiences. So at the beginning of my career, I was actually working with environmental organisations, but more recently I've moved into the culture sector. I mean, both nature and culture have always been my two passions, so I've been lucky enough to work in both of those areas. And as you say, yeah, I started doing the Family Explorers project in 2013. And that's obviously sort of stood me in good stead for joining that up with the Family Arts Network work, because there's obviously a huge amount of overlap in working in partnership to enable families to become more culturally confident.
It'd be great to just hear a little bit more about the Family Explorers project, so how it came about and the nature of its work.
Yeah, well, as I say, that actually began in 2013, and it came out of some research that was commissioned by a partnership called Newcastle Gateshead Cultural Venues. And they carried out some independent research with Maurice Hargreaves McIntyre that was aiming to find out what families needed to try something new culturally, what would give them the confidence to actually be persuaded to perhaps, as well as doing things that they've always done, which might be sort of going to the same theatre for a pantomime every year, or visiting their favourite venue sort of over and over again. What could we do to help them sort of take that extra step into trying new things? And so from talking to families, what Maurice Hargreaves McIntyre discovered was that peer recommendation was the most powerful tool for giving families that sort of extra motivation to sort of take a step of trying something new. It also discovered that there were sort of some other sort of barriers that got in the way as well. One of them was families feeling that they maybe didn't have as much practical information as they needed to sort of step out and try a new venue or a new event. So, for example, just sort of straightforward stuff like where to park, whether it's push share accessible, is the cafe family friendly, those sorts of things. And the third thing they found was that families were sort of overwhelmed by the choice. So there were so many potential options for what to do, then how could they possibly narrow down which were the best things to choose? So we developed the Family Explorers project to tackle those things, and what we've done it through creating a Facebook community, which, as you said, now has over 11,000 families on it. And on that Facebook community, families can have conversations with each other about what to do with their family time and recommend things to each other. And they can also ask each other practical questions and ensure, they know that they're going to get a trustworthy answer from a peer. And we can also step in as a cultural organisation and say, yes, did you also know that there's this facility? Or yes, we're very happy to welcome breastfeeding mothers, or, you know, whatever it is that they've asked about. So there's that kind of peer recommendation is mobilised through that group. And I'm also able to curate a selection of family-friendly events and sort of drip feed them through the group, which is aimed to sort of help with the feeling of being overwhelmed by having too much choice. I can sort of just make sure that that is manageable amount, and that the events that I post about are trustworthy. So all of the organisations that are part of the project have signed up to the Family Arts Campaign's Family Arts Standards. So we know that they will offer families a good experience when they go. And we also have an e-newsletter, which does the same thing. It curates a number of options for families and also shares what families, some of the things that families have been saying on the Facebook group. So those families that aren't on Facebook can access the information that way. And we also have a website which lists all of these venues that guarantee a good family-friendly welcome, and gives some sort of practical stuff about where they can be found, how to get there, how much it costs, all the sort of questions that you might be sort of thinking you need a quick answer to before deciding what you're going to do with your time. So that's it in a nutshell. You know, that was what the research told us to do, and that's how we've done it. And so far we've had some sort of really great feedback and lots of evidence that that is actually doing what it set out to do, and lots of families have visited new places and so on.
Brilliant. It's such a great project with so many dimensions to it. And I think it's interesting what you mentioned, obviously, like that original research, emphasising the importance of peer recommendations for families when considering events and activities they'll be engaging with their children. And the research we've just recently had commissioned in partnership with Crystallised, who are a comms agency not so far from your neck of the woods, also in the North East, reiterates that continuing importance of recommendations, unsurprisingly, of trusted recommendations, and also the fact that Facebook continues to be the single most important social platform for families when looking for and planning events and activities to engage with. The other thing that was really interesting, I remember over the past year and a half or so, is that, well, particularly the last year, that even obviously we've had COVID and so many events being cancelled and organisations being closed, and yet still you've seen your Facebook group still grow in number. And I remember we were talking some time ago about that. The slight surprise, because you never know what will be happening, obviously, especially since the unprecedented nature of the past year's events. So that was a great, just a great testament, I think, to still the continuing, you know, the power of that the project, and again maybe word of mouth, just to pass that on, because even though they can't immediately be going to events, they still want to be joining and becoming part of the group. So yeah, just so many great dimensions that I see from my perspective about Family Explorers North East. Not least, you just have such a brilliant, obviously, number of families connected, by which I know that you've been running recently a series of mini polls. So just great to get those insights into family audiences from such a large group, as I was saying.
Yeah, that two-way communication, really kind of listening to what families want, wasn't something that I'd sort of mentioned before, but, you know, that's definitely a really important part of the project, giving families a voice and enabling cultural venues to sort of hear what families really, really want, and therefore sort of helping to sort of shape what they're offering families and how they're engaging them, and just sort of generally making that whole side of things more successful. And yes, those mini polls, particularly sort of gauging how people are feeling, families are feeling about digital content and about going back into venues after COVID-19, have been quite important to the network members. It has given them some really useful insights.
Mm-hmm. So the Ambassador Programme obviously started, as I mentioned, in October 2019. So in a way, we're quite a while into it, but obviously a large part of it also has been taken up with responding to the impact of COVID. So it'd be really interesting to hear from you about what you see as the biggest challenges that the programme, from your experience, you've seen in the programme so far.
that's a really good question. And I mean, obviously, COVID is a huge one. I mean, the subheading of the Family Explorers Facebook group is days out reviews and recommendations, and the number of days out that we've been able to offer over the last year has been severely limited. But in many ways, there's also been lots of opportunities that have come out of that, because as awful as the COVID-19 pandemic has been, it has perhaps given organisations the space to sort of step back and think quite deeply about what they're doing, and also to sort of skill up in certain areas. So as an ambassador, I've done quite a lot of training myself in the times when I haven't been able to be doing work that's more directly relating to telling families about events and things. And so, you know, I feel much more able to certain areas that I feel like I'm much more knowledgeable about, and I can pass that knowledge on to other people in the network. And also what the cultural venues have learned about digitally engaging families is something that can definitely be taken forward. I mean, obviously not everything is going to be online anymore, but there's definitely scope for digital content to reach wider audiences perhaps than we were before, and we're much better at it now. So yeah, there's been some good things and some bad things that have come out of COVID. It's definitely been a steep learning curve.
Yeah, I think for everyone, yeah, that would be echoed. It'd be great to just hear about, from your perspective, what you think your network member organisations have gained from the programme.
I mean, there's so many different things, and lots, I would say. I mean, we've already talked about training opportunities. We were able to offer the network audience agency audience finder training, and that was really useful. We've been able to offer an access and inclusion conference, and the feedback about that I've had has been absolutely amazing, and that's actually led to it's sort of sparked lots of little fires. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago, and already people are talking to me about, we're going to do this as a result of going to this conference. It's really inspired us to, you know, carry out more training and development with our staff, or speak more to these organisations that are working with these audiences, and so on. And also we've been, it has enabled us to sort of listen more to what families need, given us a bit more space to do that, and to sort of perhaps sort of do more of the sort of getting feedback from families than we were able to do before. I did a big survey at the beginning of the ambassador programme to find out our baseline, and I'll be doing another survey further down the line, and some of the insights we've got from that are really helping to sort of give us direction to know best how to sort of build on what we're already doing. And just sort of generally the sort of whole power of making connections between things, so that there's less reinventing the wheel and more sort of moving forward more quickly, because everybody is sort of more aware of what the best practice is, and therefore not sort of trying to do it something that somebody else has already done better, and they can just sort of keep building and building on that. And there's also a sort of sustainability benefit. So just to give an example, because I've been speaking to the network members much more and finding out a lot more about what they're already doing, it means that you can sort of really spot opportunities. So, for example, a lot of our network members have been reaching families who might be living in particularly deprived areas, and they've been perhaps sending out craft packs and things. And we've included information about family explorers in those craft packs, so that those families can enjoy the craft packs and then perhaps think about joining family explorers, which would then in turn enable them to sort of gradually grow their confidence by chatting to other families and finding out more about what's on offer. And therefore that sort of is an extra sustainable dimension for long-term engagement with families. And, you know, things like that just couldn't have happened without the ambassador programme giving us that opportunity.
That's brilliant to hear. I guess just finally, if you were to be speaking with somebody who was considering working collaboratively with group organisations, working collaboratively as Family Arts Network, is there any particular learnings or advice that you'd give?
I mean, specifically in relation to collaboration, one thing that can seem quite hard is that when you contact a lot of organisations and tell them about something, you can be met with a big wall of silence. But what I would say is that it's really worth persevering with it, because there are some, as I've just been saying, there are some huge benefits to working as a network. And hearing what others are doing can spark off so many opportunities, bouncing ideas off each other, sparking, new projects and so on. And it is quite slow burn, but now, sort of a year and a half into it, you can really see things starting to happen. And so, there is a certain amount of patience required, but if you just sort of keep plugging away at it and keep exploiting those opportunities, good things do come out of it. And, as a tip, as a kind of just a little tip to other people who might be working on networks, what I've found is that if you ask somebody directly rather than sending a round robin email, they're far more likely to respond. So a sort of really personalised response, rather than sort of saying, is anybody interested in getting involved with this? You say, hi, Kate, or whoever, we're doing this, is such and such your organisation interested in becoming involved? And then they're much more likely to do something about it and much more likely to reply. But yeah, and also, the other thing that I would say is that make sure that the audience that you're engaging is part of your collaboration. So listen to families themselves and give them a chance to kind of really inform what you're doing. And give it time. It's really worth persevering with.
Fantastic. So great advice there. So patience, perseverance, personalise those approaches, and really listen to families first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Sallyanne. So brilliant to hear about this all. And look forward to seeing and hearing more as the programme progresses. Thanks again.
Brilliant.